Hello, everybody, and welcome to F1 Down Under. My name's Hayley,
I'm Matt.
and this is our race reaction to the Australian Grand Prix. Wow, what a race! It was very exciting for many different reasons.
Yeah, definitely worth a watch.
So, the first lap was clean for Australia
Yeah, they all got through that first corner pretty well. So
and managed to go through turn three, all the way to turn three.
yeah, some really clean lap, and then straight away you got Sainz putting the pressure on Max.
Which is good to see. The Ferrari's been looking strong all weekend, so it was good to see. But it was shocking to see Carlos Sainz in that mix. I thought it was going to be Charles, but no, Sainz after 2 weeks after having his appendix out, he's in the mix.
Yeah, yeah, and then obviously that kind of led into the problem that Max had and Red Bull. I mean, I sort of thought about it. His luck had to run out. It's really hard. There's a reason that these, winning 10 races consecutively is hard. Breaking
Yeah,
those kind of records is hard because something crops up. And in this case, it was his brake.
yeah, and it was a mechanical issue that Max had at lap five. Luckily, he managed to get it to the pits.
Yeah.
So there was no virtual safety car or safety car or red flag. But the flame coming off that,
Yeah, it did blow up that brake coming
um,
into
so
the pits.
he was very lucky to get it to the pits. He very nursily got it to the
Yeah, he nursed
pits,
it in. Yeah.
but he had all the fire extinguishers out, and oh,
Yeah.
didn't that car did not look good where the tire was.
But that's always the case, isn't it? Everyone had kind of assumed that it was Red Bull. Red Bull were just going to walk the race, but in Formula One, there's lots of things that contribute, lots of things that need to be done right for it to all happen. So again, that's probably testament to how well they've done it at Red Bull. So
It was a shame that he did retire from a mechanical issue because I think, from the driver's perspective, it wasn't his fault in
yeah,
some respects, like Max's fault. So I feel sorry for Max because it was the car's fault.
yeah, but it was needed for to make things a little bit more exciting.
Um,
And then I think what you saw after that was
was
Science being the driver he is. He pulled out a gap on Leclerc. He managed the race really well. He was in control of when he needed to come in, which leads us on to the kind of strategies and some of the other things that happened at
yeah,
this.
I was surprised how early. I knew it was a two-stopper race no matter what, but how early a lot of the cars came in
Yeah,
because they were coming from a lap about six for those who started on the softs to about lap 10.
yeah, they all did seem to come in quite early. I think even those soft runners started to cause people to want to cover them off.
So I don't know whether it was the high degradation because obviously it was the hottest it's been, so the tyres weren't.
Yeah,
They wanted to get, I think, on the hards quite quickly.
and Leclerc went in quite early, which caused McLaren to. I don't know whether they chose the right person to pit. They pitted Oscar to cover off Leclerc, but that gave him the undercut even on Lando, which is obviously they swapped that round later on, didn't they?
Team orders, whether that was right.
Well, I mean, Lando was on the newer tyres at that point, so it made sense for Piastri would have just, if he had blocked him, it would have wasted his tyres. So, I mean, it does make sense. It was just a shame, with Oscar being the local, his home Grand Prix, that he had to give up that spot. But I think that came down to who they pitted. I mean, I'm surprised they pitted Oscar before Lando,
Lando.
but that's what they did. Um,
But then, if you just so all the cars are pitted apart from three cars by lap 16, when Lewis Hamilton had another mechanical failure, he had engine failure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he was having a rubbish weekend. He's been struggling. That car clearly doesn't it's probably better than some of the other cars, but it's still not right. They still haven't worked it out, I don't
So then
think.
we had a virtual safety car. So probably the ones that weren't, I think it was Gasly and Hulkenberg that were on the mediums thought, great, cheap pit stop. But I think
Yeah,
Alonso, who probably wanted to go a bit longer on the hards, had to kind of gamble.
yeah. I mean, they needed. I mean, it was too good an opportunity because you save 10 seconds or so in a
Yeah,
virtual safety car. So
yeah, probably. But then had to do a long stint on the
yeah, but
mediums.
it bumped Alonso up the order. No doubt about that. He jumped a few cars by that.
I think he jumped up about 4 places.
Yeah, it was 3 or 4.
He didn't,
It didn't help Gasly out, but that's because he's driving an Alpine at the minute.
but that was. But then you got to the second pit stop, so then it was interesting with the second pit stops whether they go long or short or how they manage their tires and whether they did that, how they managed their second stops,
Yeah,
because we didn't see any stoppage their second stops until about between lap 20, between lap 25 and lap 35. It was all mixed, their
yeah,
second stops, depending on their strategy.
and they did. I know you could see Mercedes were thinking about keeping George out on a single stop at one point, but they didn't. Yeah, they pulled him in quite late in the end.
I think the tires were just going.
But that's what gave him the impetus to then catch up to Alonso. So, and then all of that on the last lap.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think the gravel, once George started to go off, the gravel didn't help.
no, the gravel traps tend to work, but I don't think in this case it was just going too fast and too close in the dirty air of a car.
But then that led to some more incidents. But that wasn't until after the race. So, I mean, we
No,
had to, I mean, what was in third, you got Lando, then the two Ferraris, 1-2. I mean, what a great result for them.
a great,
And well justified. I think they've made some massive improvements. They seem to be in control of it.
a great weekend for Haas, double points, 9th and 10th.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that was a real bonus for them. They did, yeah. Williams just missed out.
Unfortunately,
Well, I think Haas did a better job. I mean, they did. The car was better prepared, and obviously they had both drivers in there, so I think that worked out really well. But the Ferrari 1-2 for me is a really good sign that team is starting to iron out some of those mistakes that they've been making in previous seasons.
well, Yuki was in 8th, but then after the race, obviously he would have got promoted to 7th.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The RB. Yeah. And so that midfield is really tight, isn't it?
The midfield is really tight, and I think it's all going to be variables of the driver on the day, the circuit, the car, which the setup, which car suits what.
Yeah. So the surprise for me out of all of that was probably how Yuki really outperformed Daniel Ricciardo in that car.
There was a big difference.
I know Daniel was starting well down at the back of the field because of the lap getting deleted in qualifying, but he still didn't really
Make such an impact.
Progress as much as I thought as he would do.
Yuki held his position.
And Yuki was by far really good. But I mean, the big science seems to pull these out of the bag. I know it's his third win, but he just seems to be in a really good place the last
And you wouldn't
season and this
think
season.
2 weeks ago he had his appendix
No.
out. The way he was driving, the only way you could tell was after he got out of the car.
Yeah.
But after a race, and you would be sore.
Yeah, but I think that's the dedication. You see some of the, he obviously really manages himself, his recovery, working with the people he needs to work with. So, there's a lot of dedication that went into that. So he's not just the sort of driver that turns up. And I think that's probably why some people are less, say he doesn't have the sort of one lap
No.
pace, but he's worked on that and he works incredibly hard. So definitely deserves it in my opinion. Lots to unpick. And then right at the end, after the actual race result, then Alonso gets his penalty.
Yeah, 20 seconds. They motored him from
6th to 8th.
8th. So.
And I think, look, having watched it and seen the replay and that crash, no doubt him slowing down contributed to that accident.
There was a definite incident, him slowing down, and rewatching it several times. On the previous lap, there's a gap. You can see Russell. There's a gap. There's opportunities if Russell sped up or got closer. He kept the same racing line. You could overtake him.
Yeah.
Russell could overtake. But then if there was a definite slower impact in that corner, that was very unexpected. And Russell, it's kind of like a blind corner, would you say?
Well, it's not a blind corner. I think what happened, he clearly lifted a lot earlier than he had been doing in previous laps. Now, his argument was, well, I want to be able to, if we're racing, we should be able to control how we slow down, how we exit a corner so we can get a different thing. And if you did it all the same every lap, how could you defend in different ways? So I can kind of see where he's coming from, but I think the difference is how dramatic it was. It's like, you could argue they're saying it's like weaving when you're under braking. In those braking zones, you have to try and rely on the person doing something that's not so unexpected that it catches you out when you're following really closely, which is what happened.
Yeah.
Now, yes, good defence. You are going to slow down differently, go down round corners in different ways, but there's a bit of a difference between that and slowing dramatically down 100 metres earlier than you have done in the past. I mean, what you're trying to do there is slow the car behind you right down, which is dangerous. So,
and I think that penalty is fair.
Yeah, and as much as in other circumstances, in other racetracks, without those implications, it might not have been that penalty. But I think, he definitely. It's that fine line, and it's why you have stewards, and these things are judgments. They're not. Some of these things aren't kind of hard and fast. I mean, it's but he definitely contributed to that accident.
Yeah.
And caused George to take a bit of evasive action.
But luckily George is all right.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that really, I mean, it was interesting how long it took them to call the virtual safety car with that car in the middle of the track. Now, I understand you could argue, George was shouting about putting a red flag out. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's a red flag or a virtual safety car or a safety car. What you need, everyone was, even with a red flag, people would have still had to drive past him and would have. So I think it was more,
lap 57. So either way, they would have driven past it. So it's like, do they just finish it off with a virtual safety car so the people can just see the cars and that's the end of that? So
well, the important thing from George, from the incident point of view, really, is there's a car in the middle of the track. You need everybody to slow right down and do so quite quickly. So whether it's, obviously people will slow down if it's a red flag, people will slow down if it's a virtual safety car. So I think that's the important thing, is you want people to slow down because there's a car slap bang in the middle of the track. The worst thing about that incident was that it took
quite
a long time for that virtual safety car, because even with yellows and double wave yellows, which is, they're supposed to be ready to slow down and stop, it's not quite as clear and obvious that, hey, there's something big happened.
No, they could still drive in the middle of the road.
Yeah. Now, quite rightly, if that same crash had happened in lap 5, 6, 7 or any time before that last lap, then it would have been a red flag because you would have had to clear the track. So I know why people are saying it should have been a red flag, but the important thing for me was getting people to slow down.
Yeah.
But he's all right, and we move on to
Japan.
So lots more to play for, I think.
Yep. So this has been F1 Down Under. See you in the next video. Bye.